Well, let me ask sort of looking back at the 6 years, looking out into the future, based on your current understanding, how hard do you think this full self-driving problem, when do you think Tesla will solve level 4 FSD?
I mean, it's looking quite likely that it will be next year.
And what does the solution look like? Is it the current pool of FSD beta candidates, they start getting greater and greater as they have been degrees of autonomy, and then there's a certain level beyond which they can do their own, they can read a book?
Yeah. So, I mean, you can see that anybody who's been following the full self-driving beta closely will see that the rate of disengagements has been dropping rapidly. So, like a disengagement be where the driver intervenes to prevent the car from doing something dangerous potentially. So, so the interventions, per million miles has been dropping dramatically. At some point, and that trend looks like it happens next year, is that the probability of an accident on FSD is less than that of the average human, and then significantly less than that of the average human. So it certainly appears like we will get there next year. Then of course then there's going to be a case of, okay, well, we now have to prove this to regulators and prove it to and we want a standard that is not just equivalent to a human, but much better than the average human. I think it's got to be at least 2 or 3 times higher safety than a human. So 2 or 3 times lower probability of injury than a human. Before we would actually say, like, okay, it's okay to go. It's not going to be equivalent. It's got to be much better.
The truly big leap, again, in this category of seemingly impossible, is to put a human being on Mars. When do you think SpaceX will land a human being on Mars?
Best case is about 5 years. Worst case, 10 years.
What are the determining factors, would you say, from an engineering perspective, or is that not the bottlenecks?
It's fundamentally, engineering the vehicle. I mean, Starship is the most complex and advanced rocket that's ever been made by, I don't know, order of magnitude or something like that. It's a lot. It's really next level. So, and the fundamental optimization of Starship is minimizing cost per ton to orbit and ultimately cost per ton to the surface of Mars. This may seem like a mercantile objective, but it is actually the thing that needs to be optimized. Like there is a certain cost per ton to the surface of Mars where we can afford to establish a self-sustaining city. And then above that, we cannot afford to do it. So right now, you couldn't fly to Mars for $1 trillion. No amount of money could get you a ticket to Mars. So we need to get that above, to get that like something that is actually possible at all. But that's we don't just want to have, with Mars flags and footprints and then not come back for a half century like we did with the moon. In order to pass a very important great filter, I think we need to be a multi-planet species. This may sound somewhat esoteric to a lot of people, but eventually, given enough time, that's something the Earth is likely to experience some calamity. That could be something that humans do to themselves, or an external event like happened to the dinosaurs. But eventually, and if none of that happens, and somehow magically we keep going, then the sun is gradually expanding, and will engulf the Earth, and probably Earth gets too hot for life in about 500 million years. It's a long time, but that's only 10% longer than Earth has been around. And so if you think about like the current situation, it's really remarkable and kind of hard to believe, but Earth's been around 4.5 billion years, and this is the first time in 4.5 billion years that it's been possible to extend life beyond Earth. And that window of opportunity may be open for a long time, and I hope it is, but it also may be open for a short time. And we should, I think it was wise for us to act quickly while the window is open, just in case it closes.
What's your source of belief in situations like this? When the engineering problem is so difficult, there's a lot of experts, many of whom you admire, who have failed in the past.
Yes.
And a lot of people, a lot of experts, maybe journalists, all the kind of, the public in general have a lot of doubt about whether it's possible. And you yourself know that even if it's a non-null set, non-empty set of success, it's still unlikely or very difficult. Like, where do you go to, both personally, intellectually, as an engineer, as a team, like for source of strength needed to sort of persevere through this and to keep going with the project, take it to completion?
A source of strength. I just really not how I think about things. I mean, for me, it's simply this is something that is important to get done. And we should just keep doing it, or die trying. And I don't need a source of strength.
So quitting is not even like,
it's not in my nature.
Okay.
And I don't care about optimism or pessimism. Fuck that. We're going to get it done.
I like how you said around 2008. So you're not, some people suggested you might be Satoshi Nakamoto. You previously said you're not. Let me ask.
Not.
You're not, for sure. Would you tell us if you were?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think it's a feature or bug that he's anonymous, or she or they? It's an interesting kind of quirk of human history that there is a particular technology that is a completely anonymous inventor or creator.
Well, I mean, you can look at the evolution of ideas before the launch of Bitcoin and see who wrote, about those ideas. And then I don't know exactly. Obviously, I don't know who created Bitcoin for practical purposes, but the evolution of ideas is pretty clear before that. And like it seems as though like Nick Szabo is probably more than anyone else responsible for the evolution of those ideas. So he claims not to be Nakamoto, but I'm not sure that's neither here nor there. But he seems to be the one more responsible for the ideas behind Bitcoin than anyone else.
So it's not perhaps like singular figures aren't even as important as the figures involved in the evolution of ideas that led to a thing. So
yeah,
it's perhaps it's sad to think about history, but maybe most names will be forgotten anyway.
What is a name anyway? It's a name attached to an idea. What does it even mean, really?